I know you can't turn the game off. You're like me, sounds like, in terms of just your consumption and your addiction and the obsession with it, like I am. So
honestly, yesterday I watched every sort of football. I watched Man City, Liverpool women's. I watched England versus Finland men's. I watched college soccer. I watched NWSL. My wife hates me. She's like, "Oh, is this all we're gonna do today?" I'm like, I'm just trying to learn.
This is New Ground with Allen Hopkins Jr. Let's go. And Jalil Anibaba.
Jalil, very excited all week leading into our show because I was so really enthralled about this person's journey, about their pathway, and about the success they're having this year. And I know he's good people as well. So helping us cover New Ground on SiriusXM FC channel 157 this week is Orlando Pride and Shield winning head coach Seb Hines. Seb, how you doing? So glad you could join us here on New Ground.
No, good. I like that little intro with the Shield winners. You know, I haven't always had that, so I appreciate that shout out.
Hey, you got to wear it. You know what I mean? So as Jalil would say, game recognized game, but you'll forever get to have that. And real quick, before we get into it, I hope you and the family and everyone at the club is good after the hurricane and the storms. And what an interesting pathway you have had, Seb, as a player who made it all the way to the Premiere League, as a player in Major League Soccer, and now as a Shield-winning head coach in NWSL with Orlando. What about your pathway that you think about, to your point right now, that gives you a sense of your purpose and sort of your intent of having this moment come to you in this way?
No, it's pretty remarkable. I mean, you know, looking back on my background, my dad sadly passed away 3 years ago, but he is originally from Greensboro, North Carolina. And so I grew up in England, small town called Wetherby, next to Leeds. My mum's English. And so I had a kind of a different upbringing to a lot of my peers, a lot of my friends. My dad was ex-military as well. And so he was very hard on me, but he knew that I had a lot of potential and knew that if I work for something, I can achieve it. And so, you know, the odds of making it as a professional in England are very low and very limited. But, you know, he was one that really pushed me all the way. And so, yeah, I've always invested in football. It's the only thing that I know. I love it. It's an obsession. And so when you work for something, you can achieve anything. And so, yeah, I just got my head down, worked from playing Sunday league football all the way to academy football with Middlesbrough. Once I got into the academy, represent England, and I actually got a trial for the US as well, amazingly. We won a night tournament, which allowed us to go out to Portland and play some of the best 16 teams in the world. And so luckily there was a US scout there who saw me and invited me to San Diego to go for a trial. But at that same time, I was the England captain. I was playing, you know, week in, week out for academy at Middlesbrough. And so I was in a really good position there and decided to stay with Middlesbrough in England. And then, you know, I worked my way up all the way to being a professional under, you know, Steve McLaren. I'm not sure if you know Steve McLaren. He was the ex-England manager at some point. Played alongside like Gareth Southgate, who was the ex-England manager as well. We had Viduka there. We had Hasselbank there. Mendieta. We had some high-profile players.
Flexing.
And so I learned so much. Yeah, I learned so much around them, which was an incredible experience. And I know a lot of people say like, oh, you need to go on loan and you need to go play games, but training in that environment week in, week out, you can develop so much. And so I'm so grateful to have that opportunity and work my way up into the into the first team. And so once I got in there, I suffered with loads of injuries, every injury you can imagine: ACL, microfractures, dislocated ankle, broken jaw, you name it. I've pretty much had that injury. And so I needed a new experience. And so having that connection with the US, I always wanted to come out here and play. But I did it sooner than what I expected. But I needed to do it because I needed a new environment, because I've been at Middlesbrough for like 13, 14 years. And so being there and just getting comfortable wasn't for me. But I also wanted to stay at a high level. So coming to the MLS is a very high level. And so Orlando got in touch with Middlesbrough, told me about this being an expansion, which was new to everyone. Getting the chance to play alongside Kaká, which is incredible. Playing in front of 62,000 people in the first game, and then playing against David Villa in your first game as well wasn't too bad either. So everything made sense. The hardest thing, I'll be honest, was convincing my wife that we were moving to the US. And so once we came over here, she settled in nicely. But yeah, I just wanted to keep challenging myself, and then coming here and playing for 3 years was an amazing experience. And I don't regret it at all, because you get to see, the US as a whole, and you get to see the level as well. And it was very hard and very challenging. Jalil, you can attest to that as well. Like, being a defender in this league, it's one of the hardest things. And so, yeah, I got to challenge myself against some really top players, and I enjoyed it. But yeah, because of my injuries, like I just couldn't go on. And that's when I transitioned into coaching. And so, yeah, that was just probably my first part of my playing career. And then it's a new chapter into coaching, which I'm obviously really enjoying right now.
That's amazing, man. I mean, and as you should be enjoying it, things are going, from the outside looking in, of course, are going swimmingly, as y'all English folk will say. But the craziest part about your whole intro, you done flexed on all of the amazing players that you played alongside with, managers that you played for, but you didn't mention Giles. That's crazy, dog. That's crazy. I know
that. So me and Giles have known each other since we were 13 years old.
Oh, wow.
So we, like, when I was talking about academy, he was at Derby County Academy. I was at Middlesbrough. And so we were always like competing against each other. And then we got called up into England. He was my roommate. And if you ask him, I was his best roommate. We travel together. We go to like Bournemouth, that kind of thing, and we play alongside each other. And then he moved over, I think in 2013, he came over and played for Houston. And yeah, like, I came over in 2015, but along that time I was speaking to him and was like, listen, what's it like? And he was so complimentary about the league, and it's an opportunity you should take. And so, yeah, I took his advice. I came over, and then I think it was our second game, 2015. We played Houston Dynamo away, and we won. And he was the striker, I was a centre back, and I was like, I can't let him beat me. I can't let him beat me. And we won. We won 1-0, and then never let him forget that moment. So, yeah, he's been great. And then it's mad because it's full circle, right? And he retires, he settles in Orlando. Once I got this interim job, I was like, mate, I need you. So he comes over and helps out. And yeah, from that interim job, we've managed to get it full time and create a successful team.
Giles is one of my closer friends. He actually was super influential in, the Dynamo bringing me in when I got there. And to have a Jamaican international, to have somebody who, was the star of a franchise and one of the best players in MLS at his heyday, on your coaching staff as an assistant, it's just amazing to see. And the old adage of boys being thick as thieves is obvious with y'all two.
who are your coaching people that inspire you, and who have you delved into, because you've had a great mix of really the best of football managers in England, and then also like the American coach.
Yeah, I'm so like grateful to have I had Steve McLaren as my first coach, and then I had Southgate. I had Gordon Strachan, who
wow,
coached Celtic and Scotland. I had Aitor Karanka. I had Tony Mowbray first, who was great for me. Like, he was brilliant. He was a local player and coach from the Middlesbrough area. With Middlesbrough, we had so many academy graduates go all the way to first team. I think we were the only team in the Premier League to put out at that time? It was 18 man roster, but we had 17 academy graduates and a match day roster. And so just going through that system, I want to replicate that kind of same thing here in Orlando. So I want to give back to the community. I want to give back to young, talented players who know what it means to play for a local team, because there's a big honor of doing that. And you try that little bit harder, you run that little bit harder, because you're not just doing it for the club, you're doing it for your town. And so just coming through that means a lot. So yeah, I had Mowbray. I had Aitor Karanka, who was Jose Mourinho's assistant when he was at Real Madrid. Top coach, brilliant coach. And then obviously I came here. I had Adrian Heath in my first year, and then Jason Kreis.
You've talked a lot about your influences growing up in England, your father being a huge influence on why you love the game so much then, now, and forever. But I'm always curious as far as the mentality of professional soccer players and coaches who do things at the highest level. So for you, what is it about your specific mentality that makes you different? And what do you do as a manager that makes you different? Because there have been so many managers that have tried what you're doing right now, and they didn't even come nowhere close.
I think, as you can tell, in knowing both myself and Giles, we're very humble. We're very down to earth. We are, what you see is what you get with us. And so we can speak to players just as people, and we can also speak to them in a sense of, we've been there. We know what it's like. We know what it feels like. We've also played in Orlando as well.
Right.
And that can be brutal. And so just having that connection with the players goes a long way. And I just try to install an identity where, nothing is given in this league. You have to earn it. And so that has partly been a problem in recent years, that we've had a lot of high profile players. I mean, everyone can see it. We've had some of the best players in the world represent this club. And that can also come with a level of entitlement. And, knowing my background and knowing everyone who's been here, we've had to work for everything that we've been given. And so trying to install that into players where, listen, you can play with a chip on your shoulder because no one really respects you as the Orlando Pride, but you can use that as fuel going forward. And so we kind of create this identity of no one rates us, no one values us. Let's use that to our advantage to go out there and prove to everyone how good we can be. And so it's very much us versus everyone else. And that's kind of been our motto since the very start. When we first took over, we have to grind through it. And I know it's difficult, but the rewards are massive at the end of it. And as you can see, we won the Shield on an unbeaten run.
How much of that is who you are as a person, in terms of, we mentioned the unique pathway and nothing is given, everything is earned. How much of that in your journey as a Black head coach? There's only two in NWSL. Lauren Donaldson is a lifelong friend of mine, and Chicago's into the postseason, which is a great, unique story in itself. But that mentality that you want your players to have, how much is that a part of who you are in your journey?
Yeah, I wanted a team that represents both myself and the city, and that's really important to me. I didn't come from a lot. I was brought up in a council house. I shared a bedroom with my brother. Like I said, my dad was hard on me. He had me running laps on my birthday because all I said was I wanted to be a professional footballer.
Let's go.
That's him, and that's his military background. And so I appreciate that. I hated it at the time, but I appreciate it now. And so, yeah, I worked hard, and as a young player coming through, you get all these distractions. As you're going through puberty, you've got a lot of distractions, let's say.
Absolutely.
And so when you look at it, like how badly do I want this? And so, yeah, I would run before school. I would grind. I would watch football. I would do everything that I can to become what I wanted to be at the end of it. And so trying to install that into today's player, because the reality is a lot of it is given to players over here. It's not a working class sport like it is in England. You have to have money to play football in the US. And so try and install that in mentality. It has to be a collective. It has to come from everyone. Everyone has to be rowing in the same direction. But yeah, it's like we've used that from the very start. Especially when teams come here in Orlando, like in the middle of the summer, it can be brutal.
Sometimes you won when the team gets off the charter, Seb.
Charter? What's a charter? We don't get charters.
Fair enough.
But anyway, yeah, you get here, you get to the 20th minute, you're sweating, you're out of breath, you're tired. Like, come on, can we get over that wall? So when the opponent's hitting that wall, can we get over it? And so when we score a majority of our goals, it's beyond that. It's around that 20 to 45 minute mark, where that's when we go to a new level. And yeah, everyone's bought into it. And we've got the best role model for it in Marta. She is unbelievable. She's a 6-time World Player of the Year, and she's running around like she's 21 again. And like when you see someone of that caliber doing the little things like running around, competing, like no one else can say anything else, because she should be the most entitled person to not do it. But she set an example to everyone that, come on, we're doing this.
I saw Marta just tracking back to get goal side, and by the time the ball got cycled back around, she was in a great position. And I told the guys, he is, Seb, getting the best out of Marta. And I've been saying often there's 2 GOATs in Florida. There's one named Messi and there's one named Marta. 2 questions. What has that been like to coach a player who literally is one of the best to ever do it? And did you at all look around to maybe other coaches who had coached greats like a Phil Jackson or a Bill Belichick? What's been your reference for coaching a player like that?
I mean, I've known Marta for probably 6 years now. And so just being an assistant and just seeing how other coaches have spoken to her or integrated her in conversation and that, like I said, she's super humble and she's easy to work with. And so she just wants to play and she wants to compete. And I think it's been a 2-way street. We've kind of met in the middle of like her role within the team. And when I first took over, I asked a lot from her because, we probably didn't have the caliber of players to get the most out of her. So I kind of put her on a wing, kind of making sure that, we can get her the service, the ball into good areas for her to dribble all those through balls. Now it's more of, okay, we've recruited some really good, talented players and she's almost got a free role now. So I kind of give her license to go find the game. So if she wants to drop deep, she can drop deep. If she wants to stay high, she can stay high. If she wants to play wide, she can play wide, as long as the fundamentals are still there, as long as the basics are still there of like competing, working hard, filling in positions, because if she goes wide, someone has to go inside. But as long as she knows the roles and responsibilities of like her defensive responsibilities, then yeah, it's fine. Like, it's cool. Like, it's basically she's got a freedom to go express herself and play. And I think that's why everyone's seen the best of her, because she's not just pigeonholed to one position. She can go be herself, and for her, that's the best thing.
It's amazing. We were talking about it even on the last show, like how amazing she has continued to be. She seems to be getting, more and more influential as she gets older, like, Amazing Wine or something like that. I was just really inspired by seeing her, obviously when she wasn't with you guys, but with Brazil in the Olympics, still coming on even in the final, like trying to make things work, and just continuing to inspire. You talked about some of the other players that you've been able to bring in to maybe fortify the eliteness to your team. Talk to us about Barbra Banda and how amazing she's been, because she's obviously having an MVP caliber year. What about her is so special individually, and how does she fit in to the collective in terms of making you guys just, quite frankly, unpredictable day in and day out?
Well, she's an important piece of Marta's performances as well, because Marta has to try and keep up with her when we're in transition. She's doing like full length sprints.
Seb, hop on or get left off, right?
I'm like, go on, Marta, support. And she's like that, trying to keep up with but yeah, wow, what an athlete. She is strong, she is fast, she is physical, and she has an eye for goal. And I think people forget that she's still only 24, and she's literally set the world alight in this league. The challenge for her is obviously, as players get more familiar on her and how she likes to play, for her to go to that next level, she's already a Ballon d'Or nominee, which is incredible. But the question for her is like, how good can she be? And that's the question we have with her. How much does she want to invest in herself? How can she beat what Chewinga's done this year as well and make that personal? And so we have to continue to develop her. We have to keep, guiding her in the right direction. One thing we can't teach is her speed, because that's something that's been given to her. But there's little nuances that she can develop and have an understanding and get in like good areas to finish her chances. But yeah, she's only dipped her toes right now, and it's crazy to think that even though she scored 13 goals this season, like she's still got loads of room to develop. But she, again, another great human, lovely woman who is super humble.
We're trying to change the conversation in many ways. And one of the things that I'm big on right now is and, as opposed to or. You've won the league now, and you're trying to win the postseason and the playoffs. And you were coached, as you mentioned, by wonderful people. So you've won the league. How much, if any, does your mindset change from winning the Shield to winning these all-in, high-stakes, win-or-go-home type matches for a team that has already done something, but in so many ways, it's not going to be done until you do it?
It's kind of adapting to the US landscape, right? Because growing up in England, and you look around the world, being the number one team, like you're done. Like you've won the league, you're done. And just learning how this league and both MLS and NWSL operates, there's probably not enough credibility for winning the league, and you have to win this 3-game tournament, as mad as it sounds. And so it's like switching the mind now to like playoff football. We went unbeaten all the way to winning the Shield, which is an incredible achievement, and like it's unimaginable to go that length of a season without losing. Like it was over a year without losing a game. To then achieving it, to then now we've got 2 games now. it's all preparation for these playoffs and this postseason. And can we, although we're at a really high standard right now, can we go to another level of almost being perfect? Like that's how it is now. Like you have to be perfect. So there's no room for error, because the level of some of these teams, if you make one mistake, they're going to punish you. And then before you know it, you're out of the tournament. So it's just refining those little moments to then, make sure that we're in the final of the NWSL Championship.
And yes, easier said than done, but you guys have done a lot of very difficult things and made them look easy this year. Just to kind of sum everything up, talked about, your amazing playing career, your amazing coaching career up to this point in time, the team, individuals, the collective, but there's still one more thing left to accomplish, like you just spoke about. What is it for you? If you can pinpoint one thing, and it could be something that nobody knows about, what is it that leaves you poised to believe and understand that your team has what it takes to win the championship?
I think we've gone through so much in such a short space of time. Everyone thinks this has been like a quick fix, but it really hasn't. It really hasn't here. Like we've really like changed the landscape of Orlando Pride. Even before and where this club was, it was I don't even want to say a sinking ship. We were at the bottom of the ocean. Like that's how bad it was. And so we made sure that we had to get the culture right straight away. When I first took over, we lost the first game against Chicago 1-0. It was a Miles Swanson top corner. Like, okay. The second game, we lost 6-0 away at Portland. And that's when I knew, like, we had to change a lot. Like, we couldn't keep going in that direction. And so when we come back, we made it hard. Like, we had double days in the middle of summer. We made it competitive. We made, players want to come to training. So, like, although they were working hard, they were leaving with a smile on their face as well. So we went through that whole culture piece of, like, what it means to play for this club. So that was 2022. 2023, we invested a lot in young players. We really invested in the draft and brought a lot of young, talented players who didn't really know the league and were still finding their feet. And so we won 10 games, but we lost 11 games, and we merely missed out on playoffs by goal difference. We lost by 2 goals on playoffs. And I said to them at the end of that season was like, it wasn't our time. We weren't ready for that. And maybe that was like a blessing to go into this year. And so we got the culture right. We got the competitive right. We got the character right within the group to then go on this unbeaten run and ready to compete. And that's along with, we've had some season-ending injuries, which has, been devastating. We've, figured out how to win games and stay competitive and see out games other than our last game against Portland. But they've gone through everything. And so I just feel like they're prepared. There's a different mentality around this group. We've faced every team this year, and every team is wanting to be the team that's beaten us. Mm-hmm. Like Portland Thorns after the game were like happy they were the team that beat us. And Portland Thorns are the most decorated team and most successful team since NWSL existence, mm-hmm. and they're happy that they beat us. Like that's mad how times have just changed within a year. So they're ready for it. They're like chomping at the bit. There's players who all want to start. They all want to play. And now I'm in a difficult position because they're all capable of starting and playing in this postseason. So the competitiveness within the group, like they're all at it right now to get that first start. So I know mentally, like they're all ready to go out there and compete. And to finish number 1 is massive because we're playing in our home ground in front of our own fans as well, leading up to the championship, which is, again, massive accomplishment. So I just feel like they're ready to do it.
Seb Hines, you've been so kind to join us. Allie Watt is an athlete I work with Phil Stevenson at Texas A&M. Great person, great player. And when you talk about culture, I know you've done an amazing job. And I want to know here in closing, is Micah Richards really funny or nah?
Oh my God.
You can be real with us. Your secret is
He's
safe.
got the most iconic laugh. Most iconic laugh. But
Right?
yeah, he is like that. Obviously, like we grew up together as well. We both went to the same school. We both played for England when we were both at school as well. We competed, when he was at Man City and Middlesbrough. I don't know where he's got that size from because he was tiny.
He eating all the pies. That's what you really want to say.
No, he would eat a rotisserie chicken before school. I swear, he'd be coming into school with like drumsticks, like.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. Well, then that answers your question right there.
No, but listen, like he was like, let me tell you, he was tiny at school. Tiny. He was fast, but he was tiny.
Wow.
Yeah, and now he's like, he couldn't get through a door frame now.
Nope.
You personify class. Your team plays the right way. The respect that you've earned this year, not just because of the results, but how you guys have gone about it, is ubiquitous. And congratulations for winning the league. But I know that you have 2 more games you're trying to win as well. So best of luck. And we'd love to catch up with you when the season's all done and dusted and dig a little deeper into so many other things as well. But thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck in the postseason and the rest of the way.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, look forward to speaking to you again.